So if you're wondering exactly how thin the iPhone 17 Air is going to be for some reason, we have news from Mark Gurman delving into exactly that. He says the 17 Air is going to be 2mm thinner than the iPhone 16 Pro, which is currently 8.25mm, and so do the maths in your head, that's going to be 6.25mm for the iPhone 17 Air, which by the way, will be the thinnest iPhone ever made. Now remember that weird rumor about the 17 Pro switching to aluminium? Well, as per the norm in the world of leaks, we have a new rumor that goes completely against this, and so let's dive right in. So yes, a new leak from Instant Digital goes completely against what the information told us recently about the 17 Pro moving to aluminium. According to them, this leak makes no sense, because Apple would not be able to market this downgrade after flexing titanium, and so they seem to be sure that Apple's sticking to titanium with the 17 Pro, but I can't lie guys, this is a pretty weak argument considering Apple has removed features they made a huge deal about in the past, for example 3D touch on the iPhone or the touch bar with the Mac, and so they could do the same with titanium in my opinion. It's totally plausible for Apple to pretend like titanium did not exist and move on with aluminium on the Pro iPhones. But you may be wondering, why are they even considering switching to aluminium? Well, I think a big reason could be color choices. We all know that color choices on the Pro phones are pretty plain compared to the regular models, and it's because the titanium chassis on the Pro models is very hard to color in bright shades, and so maybe Apple's moving to aluminium just so they can give us actual fun, vibrant colors that look different for once. Especially since nowadays functionally phones aren't very different. If Apple gives Pro consumers bright shades of red, green and blue for once, that could actually get people to upgrade. I also think another side reason could simply be cost. Maybe titanium is getting more expensive for Apple to use, and so they want to widen their profit margins and use aluminium instead. Yes, there will be a compromise with the durability of the device, since titanium is a tougher material, but if it does come in more fun colors, I don't think people will mind that considering many use a case. You know what else I would not mind? If you subscribe to the channel, of course. It's free and it'll bring you the latest about Apple right to the subscription box, so please consider it. It would be appreciated. Join the Saranbyte gang now. Anyway, things get more interesting with the back of the device because apparently we could see our first camera redesign since the stove design was introduced with the iPhone 11 Pro. According to the information, the rear will be part aluminium, part glass, and will feature a rectangular camera bump that's going to be made out of aluminium instead of 3D glass, which basically seems to suggest a design similar to Pixel's with their visor layout. This would be a dramatic change for the iPhone, though I will point out that the current stove design has stuck around for so long because it's the only way the cameras are at equal distance with each other, which allows for seamless switching between the lenses, and this would be broken if they implement a visor design, but who knows, maybe it can still be seamless with that new layout since technology has improved since 2019, and ultimately Apple probably wants the iPhone to actually look different and stand out as a new model since, of course, the last few generations of Pro models look identical from the back. Talking about new model, let's now touch on the iPhone 17 Air. Essentially, for those out of the loop, the plus size is dead, it's not been selling well, and it's funny because that was brought in as a replacement for the Mini, which also was not selling well. So what I've learned from this is that we don't really need a fourth iPhone in the range, but Apple thinks they still do need one, and so they're back with a new fourth option, and this time it's a slim model. So this is rumored to be called the iPhone 17 Air, which yes, would make sense based on what Apple's done in the past, but also do know Air doesn't actually mean thinnest products anymore. For example, the iPad Air is actually thicker than the iPad Pro, and so the name has kind of lost its meaning across the years, but for a product like this, Air would make sense, and it would be nice for the name to go back to its roots. We've been hearing this could be thinner than the iPhone 6, yes, the bendy iPhone, and apparently it could be 5 to 6mm in thickness, which is absolutely insane when you consider the current Pro iPhones are 8.25mm in thickness. Now I know some may be worried about the durability since, as I mentioned, the iPhone 6 was the bendy iPhone, but do remember the M4 iPad Pro is actually even thinner than the rumored iPhone 17 Air, and that had no bending issues as such, so I'm sure Apple can do their engineering magic this time to prevent any sort of bendgate situation. Now because it's so thin, there will be some compromises with the specs. For example, we're expecting this to come with one single camera on the back instead of dual or triple cameras we usually come to expect, and this single lens will be 48 megapixels that I'm assuming is going to be similar to the 16 Pro's current main camera. To be honest, that's a non-issue because the ultra-wide is a pretty niche lens that not everyone's going to use, plus with a 48 megapixel camera you get the option for a 2x telephoto telephoto crop, which makes up for the lack of a telephoto lens. And so yes, I'm fine with one camera on the device. Another compromise we can expect is no physical SIM card slots. This has been the norm for those based in the US, but apparently the 17 is going to be eSIM as standard everywhere. Now, I would say eSIM has become popular enough globally for this to be acceptable, and if anything, releasing this iPhone globally without a SIM slot is going to force the whole world to switch to eSIM and will accelerate that process. Apparently, another compromise we're going to see is with the speakers. There's no space to add a speaker on the bottom edge of the device, and so the earpiece is going to double as a speaker. Now, hopefully it doesn't sound a lot worse than other iPhones. I really do like the stereo system we have right now, but anyway, let's see what Apple does. The phone will also feature Apple's first in-house 5G modem, which I'm hoping is going to be more efficient, but there may be a few issues with it considering it's a first-gen product, and apparently it's only coming to the end, not the pros, and so that should tell you how confident Apple is with these modems. But here's hoping it's not as bad as the horrible Intel modems we had back in the day. We can also expect a compromise with the battery inside. Apparently that's what Apple's struggling with the most right now, but honestly I'm not surprised because when the phone gets thinner, usually it's the battery that's compromised. But hopefully due to the efficiency of the A19, there should not be a huge compromise with the endurance. Anyway, the size of the 17 is expected to be right in between the regular and Pro Max size options at 6.6 inches, so in a way it's similar to the iPhone 10 that was in between the 8 and 8 Plus, and it's also going to have the A19 with 8 gigs of RAM, as well as a new 24 megapixel selfie camera, which piques my interest because it's been a while since we had any sort of front-facing camera upgrades. Now I know some might be a little confused by this product because its specs are closer to a regular iPhone, or actually worse in some aspects, but it's also going to have a design that's superior, and it might even be more expensive than other iPhones. So who's actually appealing to? Well, like I said about the Pro models getting fun colors, I think because phones have matured and reached their peak when it comes to functionality, there may be consumers who are interested in a device that puts form over function, and so I'm guessing Apple's betting on that market being big enough for the 17 Air to be a success. This could apparently be $11.99, and so in a way it reminds me of the 12-inch MacBook because that was also overpriced for the specs it offered, but my god was that a beautiful MacBook chassis, and so this is the iPhone version of that, but hopefully the compromises this time are justified and a non-issue for the radically thinner design. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching. So we are getting closer and closer to the iPhone SE4's release, and now we have actual listings of cases for the iPhone SE4 on Amazon, which basically corroborate with the rumors we've heard so far. So for example, this should be based on the iPhone 14, and yes, we see that with the flat sides and the iPhone 14 notch, and we also see one camera on the back, which again has been reported by leakers. It should be a 48 megapixel sensor on the back, and that does seem to be the case. Also interestingly, this case listing does seem to show a smaller action button, but I don't expect that to be the case. I think they've got their dummy wrong and we're getting a mute switch, and there's no camera button on this, so I expect those fancy buttons to be exclusive to higher end models. Now let's delve into some actual dummy units of the iPhone SE4, and interestingly there's dummy models for two size options, which might